Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you all. It's a pleasure today to introduce BrightStarr. I'm Margaret Loosemore. I'm a Senior Product Manager in the U.S. subsidiary for SharePoint and Yammer. I work with partners like BrightStarr, and I spend some time driving competitive strategies for Microsoft around Office 365. BrightStarr is a Microsoft Gold partner. They focus on Office 365, SharePoint, Yammer, and Azure. They're regularly recognized for the cutting-edge design and technical excellence to deliver world-class solutions. They understand the digital workplace and build those solutions to improve employee productivity, elevate brands, and really create multi-channel revenue opportunities. I work with Will. Will's a co-founder of BrightStarr since 2006, and in 2009 he was recognized for his achievements as one of the UK's top entrepreneurs, winning the coveted Young Guns Award. He's driving the BrightStarr growth as a multinational partner in the US ecosystem, and he regularly contributes to CSM Wire and is a blogger around SharePoint, as well as a Microsoft virtual technology specialist. He thrives on solving business problems with technology and delighting his customers with digital experiences. I also work with Kip, and Kip is really a creative sales leader. He joined BrightStarr to lead their organization in the US. He creates the plans and strategies to help customers achieve their business outcomes. He's a long history of entrepreneurial startups and consulting in business services and technology, as well as with ISVs around SharePoint and the Microsoft stack. And he's really been very creative and capable in building a portfolio and helping customers achieve, again, those business outcomes in the Fortune 100 and the Fortune 500. Today's session is actually going to focus on some of those great solutions that they've built, talking about some of the best practices, as well as looking at some of the innovative solutions that they're delivering on SharePoint, one of them being an out-of-box intranet called Breeze. I'm actually really excited about Breeze, the way it combines the social technologies of our stack and the way it presents that digital experience for folks to engage with. We'll have a panelist today that will answer questions as well as discuss, again, how to plan, build, and design those solutions, and I think you'll find it really engaging. So without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce Kip. Kip?
Thanks very much, Margaret. Appreciate it. That was a great intro, Margaret. Tough act to follow. So just real quick on, Margaret mentioned my background. I'm actually based out of Boston, and we have a trifecta of things we want to show you today. One of them is an Apt Associates portal, which is actually just a new award we won. I don't know how many people are familiar with Nielsen Norman. They have an award every year, and this year we were awarded Best Intranet. And we're actually going to show you, we're going to dive into that a little bit and show you how we actually built out the solution using a lot of user research and then built a very compelling solution. This trifecta also includes Breeze, as Margaret pointed out, and then we have a great panel as well. We have Metalogix here, Web Trends here, Barclays is here as well, as well as Steve, who's a director of business productivity, part of the Microsoft team, and then Ursula, who's a customer success manager with Yammer. So I'll get right into it. So Apt Associates, you probably heard a lot over the last couple days around really the three core things. If you look at the three pillars that are important over the next 18 to 24 months, it's really cloud, social, and mobility. And so with those things in mind, that's exactly what we addressed in Apt Associates. And again, it's an award winner. I don't know how many people are going to the Metalogix Best of Breed tomorrow night. We're actually a finalist as well for this portal. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll win another award for AGI. AGI actually stands for Apt Global Intranet. I'm from Boston, and I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I had a really great math teacher when I was in 8th grade, and he had this propensity of showing up on Monday mornings and doing a pop quiz. And this one time, he kind of leaned over my shoulder, and I could feel his presence behind me, and he just looked down and pulled his glasses down. He said, "Hey, Kip, work smarter, not harder." So one of the things I kind of keep in the back of my mind when thinking about these projects with customers is, in fact, that statement. It sticks with me. So these portals we create are really about making sure people work smarter every day and not harder. And that's really the whole thing about driving business outcomes and business productivity in these intranet solutions that we create. So a little bit of background. I don't know if people are familiar with Nielsen Norman. You can actually go out and download their report. I think it's $248. Some key facts about the trends of the winners from this year. Creating a new intranet from beginning to end took 1.4 years on average. This dropped from 2013 from a 2.2 years. And the year before that, believe it or not, 4 years to create these types of intranets. Now, some of them are very large, big customers that are, over 100,000 employees. The winning organization size ranged from 20 users all the way up to 61,000, with a median organization size of 5,500. 7 of our winning sites support fewer than 10,000 employees, with 4 of them supporting 5,000. Actually, Apt Associates is 2,700 people, believe it or not, and it won Best Intranet. Since 2001, winning sites have had an average of 53,700. I think the important fact here about what's happening in the cloud is with Office 365 and Yammer, you're now able to stand up these compelling intranets without having to go procure servers and set up intranet farms. You can do that now very easily because it's supported from an SLA perspective with Microsoft, so you can stand these sites up very quickly. This year's winners actually represent the smallest set of employees. So again, looking at the opportunity to look at cloud, Office 365 and Yammer, there's now an opportunity for companies like Apt to win an award like this. And again, these are just facts on the number of employees. As you can see, it's going down every year. Here's what the old site used to look like. So this was AppNet. And the big thing here is that it wasn't a CMS. It was built on Cold Fusion. And so if you look at, someone would call up and say, hey, I want to update an article page. They'd actually have to hard code that page using Cold Fusion. File shares were pervasive for storing documents. There's a lack of collaboration, absolutely no social. And there were security risks beyond that. And then obviously poor navigation and then multi-subsystems. So things like a people directory was a subsystem actually built in Access that then was leveraged up into the Cold Fusion platform. You can do all of that now in Office 365. Here's how Apt Associates, again, Apt Associates is a global leader in the human services, management consulting, in policy, education services, human services, HIV research in second and third world countries. They're actually based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Bethesda, Maryland, and they have offices in New York, Atlanta, Charlotte, Chicago, and then if you look at how they're distributed around the world, what's really important to notice here is there's 60 countries that are represented and 40 program offices. Their people actually are coming from 94 countries. They speak more than 85 languages. And again, I mentioned the 60 countries. So if you look at just one location in the US, and that's Cambridge, how these people should be talking to one another across these countries, that's the ideal situation. Now, you have the same thing mapped as well from Chicago and Charlotte to these other countries as well. But just to give you a representation, that wasn't happening. And the reason, the reason why is because the internet infrastructure wasn't permitting these people that had a laptop or a desktop to actually access the internet. So one of the things we were first looking at is, how do we solve that problem? And so if you look at the lack of an infrastructure from an internet perspective, one of the big things was mobility, right? Most of these countries actually have 3G networks or 4G networks, and so mobility was a very large part of how we approached the project. And we approached the project using a number of things like game storming and post the path, user personas. And I'll just kind of quickly scan through this, but all the user research that we gathered permitted us to do a very solid plan around wireframing, visual design, information architecture, taxonomy and search, user stories, migration path, content strategy, governance, and then again, usability studies. And then finally, we actually used Azure as the prototyping capability. So once we did the wireframes, we actually stood them up in Azure and then allowed people through focus groups to give feedback using usability test scripts. Here's some of the pain points. Again, if you look at You can kind of make that out there on the, I think, 6th line, mobility. Out of the 16 people in this given workshop, 16 people said mobility was the biggest thing. Other items were search, content curation, industry taxonomies, multilingual support. I just mentioned there's, in the App Associates, these people speak, dozens of languages. And the old AppNet didn't support multilingual. And so beyond the mobility piece that I'm talking about, we actually made it multilingual as well. Here's a persona. Here's an example of a persona. So you've got a backstory. So this was a woman named Julie who represents a specific user group within App Associates and how they're going to leverage the internet. So we looked at things like, what are their motivations on a daily basis? What are their goals and frustrations? And what are their expectations for their future site? And then to the left there, you'll see, how does Julie actually interact with the internet now? What kind of tools does she use? They use Windows 7, IE. What kind of devices is she using? She has a laptop, a desktop, and maybe a Surface device. And then what is her SharePoint comfort level? So some of the big things we learned from this, what did we learn from the user research we did? Really 4 things: engage me, feed me, connect me, and know me. So if you look at engage me, with the ability to leverage mobility, we're now engaging folks across these teams to use the tools to make them more effective. It's more task-oriented work. Feed me was feed information from corporate, so people out in these distributed countries actually had the information they needed. Because they weren't connecting through AppNet, they had no idea what was happening in corporate. So now, through this virtual hallway, they were being able to share information almost like a virtual water bubbler, to be able to see the kind of information that they would need. Let's say new wins inside of App Associates. And then connect me, making sure people can collaborate. They can find subject matter experts. App Associates does a lot of grant writing. So they had project sites and team sites where people were collaborating across countries on maybe grants that were very similar to another grant that they wanted to write, let's say, in Uganda for building a road, right? And then know me. So if you know someone, you can personalize the experience. You know who these personas are. They can serve up the right kind of content in the page. From the research then, we did a wireframing exercise where we had a home page with a news carousel. As you can see, prominently displayed there, an activity feed for social. And then the carousel underneath actually had HR and other learning collateral that was in there that was either streaming video or was other content that they could leverage. The next page here is actually a news area. So we had news and announcements, a message from the CEO, a carousel of a separate news. It might be personalized to you depending on who you are in the organization. And then what does it look like on a mobile device? And then a tablet. Here's what the site looks like now. Comes to life here. You see the activity feed. You see this carousel of news. I click on this one. It changes the story. And here's this carousel of information. HR, let's say videos. We've got an employee spotlight. We've got events. And then tasks that are specific to this person that's logged in. So things like training carousel, announcements, quick reference. I show here this little quick link fly-in. So people very often want to go to the same thing over and over, whether it's a timesheet or an expense report. They can now have this fly-in that comes in that stays with the individual throughout the entire site. Think of it as almost like a favorites in IE. Up top, we have a little menu that pops down and allows them to set their page. They can actually personalize the content, and then they can go to their My Site as well here. You can go directly from that little menu there to their My Site profile. Here's that quick links I mentioned. So you can see there it actually says timesheet, expense report. Then there might even be project sites that they're part of, like IT department or specific projects like Uganda. Here's an article page. And again, what's important here is we're actually integrating Link. Because they're an Office 365 customer, they're actually integrating Link directly here. They can actually correspond directly with the author by hitting the link box, opening it up, and then doing a voice over IP call or doing an IM directly to the author. Here we have an HR department area. So one of the things we talked about with each of the departments is they get calls all the time into the departments about questions that are asked, like when is 401k set up? What's the employee vacation policy? All this stuff now can be held up in here and frequently asked questions. So we built an FAQ bank. So it would cut down on costs, whether that's HR or IT. You're cutting down on the cost because you're providing this information directly to the individuals, not only in the US, but now across the world. And then you had useful links. So again, they can save links in here of other things that they wanted to hit. And then there's resources. Who do they call if they have a question about, let's say, payroll? They have all that information accessible from here. Here's a specific project I just mentioned before, Uganda, the road development project. And they could keep all documents in here. There's a grant in here, the grant document they had written. They had a team area here for news and articles, and they had tools as well in here. So again, this is accessible using any kind of device, whether that's a Surface or an iPad or an iPhone. They now have access in these project sites to collaborate across the organization. And then here's a My Site profile. Again, we've removed a lot of the content, obviously, for privacy. But things like the org chart, you could add a resume, recent activities. You can't see the bottom of this, but there's actually a note board, so I could actually post notes in here as well. And then search. Search is a big thing for them. Obviously, when you build a really good user experience, I often tell people, if you're more than 2 clicks away, you've failed your partner. And so we always design first with a user-centered design, making sure that the user experience really drives that kind of interaction. But the last resort is really search, but you do want to make search very easy. And so leveraging search now with Office 365 and SharePoint 13, search is fantastic. You have the ability to do filtering here. You can sort by people and everything here, or even documents. And then I have people matches as well. So the big thing with people that are inside this site now, they filled out their profile. They're essentially tagging themselves. So when someone does a search, they'll come up as a people match. Here's what it looked like on a mobile device. So here's a tablet. Here's the Uganda area I told you about before. And again, this is tablet here as well. Here's what it looks like on an iPhone or a Windows device. And again, notice that the menu is changing. The menu's changed. It's no longer a mega menu. The menu's changed. The structure of it's changed. So people are familiar with responsive design. This is how we're driving that. It's using a 960 grid to serve up this content. So it doesn't matter where you are. If I hit this portal, it's going to redefine itself in your hands, depending on whether that's a Surface or an iPhone or an iPad or a Galaxy. It's going to change for you. Again, here's another example. So obviously, the big part of this was the workforce was disconnected. 60% of the people that were using AppNet before were outside of the country, and they weren't using AppNet at all. And with this now new mobile as a primary focus in delivering this new site, you're able now to hit that 60%. We drove adoption up by 70% with App Associates. One of the reasons why we won this award. It was designed on Office 365, and it was designed with mobile first as a strategy, and social. And again, it was able to be leveraged and used in these second and third world countries where people weren't accessing it before. So let's talk a little bit about best practices. What did we learn from this project? So everything you're going to see here is actually coming directly from Mary Harper, who's the CIO of App Associates. And she said, when we were doing the user research, what we figured out is think mobile first, right? But that paradigm shift means that you have to think differently about everything you do in the organization. It's not just this new AGI intranet, but then all the other systems that might tie in. We actually tied in other line of business applications, so you have to start to think about mobile from a standpoint of not just the intranet, but how you develop other applications as well. And changing the mindset, obviously, I just mentioned that. And once you change the mindset, you also have to come up with mobile policies. So if you've got 60% of your workforce, which is over 1,600 people, what is your policy for, let's say someone loses an iPhone or an iPad or a Surface device? How do you kill it? How do you kill the device? How do you protect the organization? Because you're now pushing this content out into people that are sitting, let's say in Uganda, in a field, filling out a timesheet, and they'll say they drop it and walk away. You have to have the kind of policies that allow people to either kill that device or know what they can and can't do from a policy perspective. And again, that was Mary Harper, the CIO of App Associates. User engagement. I think one of the big things that we kind of pride ourselves on is when you build these types of solutions, you can build the Taj Mahal, and if people don't show up, you failed, right? So driving user engagement is really important. It's critical. So part of the thing we do with our customers, we actually build communication plans, adoption plans, launch videos. In the case with AGI, we actually built out the opportunity for people to come in and do AGI sessions. So they had AGI guides. When they walked into a cafeteria, they had the Surface device, and they were showing them the features. And this was actually before the launch. And so people would sit down, and they would sit with these AGI guides, and they bring them through the site so that when it does launch, these people are excited about it. Mobile formats, I kind of talked about that, so that's where they're coming into the cafeterias, and people are getting this kind of training. And then a really cool thing that we did is, or what AGI did, or App Associates, is they rolled in a photo booth. I don't know how many people are using My Site profiles. Having people fill out a profile is actually really hard, right? They don't want to take the time to do that. And so one of the key things was actually getting a picture of the individual. And so as part of these cafeteria sessions, they rolled in a photo booth, they took a picture, they uploaded it to the profile, then they actually helped them fill out the profile, which also drove adoption and the ability to find subject matter expertise. And that came from Rob Grimmett, who's the Associate Director of App Associates in the digital communications area. So what were the project results? So this is Jay Knott, who's the Executive Vice President of the business. He said it was like getting a brain boost for the organization. The business opportunity for them was being able to connect these people made them more productive, more efficient in their daily jobs every day. They could find subject matter experts, and they could, what would take them 2 weeks to do something would now take them hours or days. He also said it brings them much closer to having a seamless web knowledge of communication and collaboration across the entire world for them. Cheryl Fries, it's a way to bump into a virtual hallway. Think about that. When you were in an organization 10 or 15 years ago, you would go to the water bubble and you'd discuss things, right? Well, that's not the case anymore. People work from home. They're in outlying offices. In the case with AGI or App Associates, they have 40 program offices spread across 60 countries. So it gave them a virtual hallway to collaborate, to use social, to be able to collaborate on a document like a grant. And essentially she said it's our social network. It's prominently displayed, right there, and it allows people to do things more effectively. This is one of the biggest ones, I think, here. Cara Pernice, who's actually the person who started the Nielsen Norman Award 14 or 15 years ago, she actually quoted this. She said, when she started this years ago, she would only hope that App Associates or intranets like this could win. So this is a direct quote from Cara. That's it on App Associates. I'm going to hand it over to Will. Will's going to talk about Breeze, the new introduction that we're doing here. Thanks, Will. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kurt. Hi, guys. So about 6 months ago, back in the UK, we were thinking about the work that we'd done with App Associates on Office 365 and some of the other projects that we were involved in. And we started to think whether it was a good idea, whether we could actually deliver a product based on Office 365, a full intranet service based on Office 365, which effectively could span different forms and factors. So we've been working as a product team for the last 6 months to deliver this piece of software, this service. And we're almost ready now to kind of formally release it. We're very much in a customer preview stage at the moment. But we just wanted to share it with you and really get some feedback, just try and understand whether this is something that the market's really interested in. So just a couple of slides to go through first. So what is Breeze? Well, it's a subscription-based internet service built on the Office 365 cloud platform. We've really built it with enterprise mobility in mind. It's very much a kind of mobile-first solution. Breeze works fantastically on desktop and just as well on tablet and on mobile devices. It's fully integrated with Yammer. So Yammer is our default enterprise social tool embedded into Breeze. And we've also underpinned the product with fantastic customer support and also an ongoing roadmap. So a lot of our customers, we see their intranets evolve over time, but quite often we're being asked the same things by our customers on an annual basis. So we're creating a roadmap for Breeze that really layers onto the way our customers want to evolve their intranets. So what were the actual design goals for Breeze? What do we really want to do with it? So these are the things that are important to us. So an end-to-end seamless experience was really key to us. The user experience had to be there. Some of the feedback that we were getting around Office 365 is that the components are all there, but they're not necessarily intuitive. They're not kind of brought together in one user experience layer. So that was an important factor for us and something that we really wanted to get right in Breeze. We also wanted to lead the way a little bit and show people how things should be done on an intranet platform. So we've been consulting on intranets for the last 8 years. We've got good knowledge and experience of what people are trying to do with their intranets, how they're trying to drive collaboration. So we've tried to build some of that best practice and all of those things that we've seen into Breeze. And also, we wanted to make sure that we were working completely in line with the Office 365 team, including the development team, and also Yammer as well, so that we can really connect with those guys, understand their roadmaps, understand where they're going in the future, and make sure Breeze can fully align with that. So what were the business objectives around Breeze? Where are we hoping customers can see return on investment? So one of the big factors is reducing costs and time to market for a world-class intranet. We're often talk to clients, and they'll tell us that they want this fantastic intranet that can do 101 things, and they want it next week. That's quite a common theme for us. And we have to try and educate them and explain to them that intranet projects generally don't stop. Just the time to get to launch is typically around 6 months. But with Breeze, we can clearly switch things on much quicker and provide people with the solutions they're looking for in a much quicker time frame. We want to make sure that we can provide people with information, much faster. So through the use of the Microsoft Cloud, the fact you can get it anywhere, through the use of different devices. You're always connected to this intranet now with mobile and tablet. And we also wanted to make the ongoing costs of running an intranet predictable and manageable for our clients. And then finally, just to emphasise that an intranet really is all about content and collaboration. It's not keeping servers running or making sure you've installed the latest patches. We believe that if Microsoft can do that for you, then that's a perfect place to be in. Okay, so yeah, our product team's mantra has really been to create a beautiful product with unparalleled support. Don't know what that was. So ensure that people love using Breeze every day of their working life. So that's the mantra our design team's been working towards. So I'm now going to show you a demo of Breeze. When my colleague suggested that I should show a live demo of Breeze on Office 365 across desktop, tablet and mobile, I suggested to them I would rather go skydiving without a parachute. But we're going to give it a go. Let's see what happens. Okay, Lewis, let's go for it. So we'll show you the desktop experience first of all. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that we've embedded company news, some apps that people can consume on their intranet. Up here on the top, you'll notice the connect to Yammer. So we're just going to connect Breeze to Yammer now. So this is a one-time deal. You only have to do this once. And once you're connected, you're good to go. Breeze does support SharePoint Social, by the way, but we just, we feel that Yammer's clearly the way forward. Okay, so now we're actually connected to Yammer now, and you can see straight away it's pulling back some social stats around me, and it's pulled some more information back about myself using the Yammer user profile. So I'm just going to kind of show you a couple of little things on the desktop experience, and then we'll move to tablet. So one of the things that we spent quite a lot of time talking about was, okay, we have this kind of top-level intranet where things should remain reasonably kind of stable and without too much change. Obviously the content that you're showing on these top-level sites is very much dynamic content, but typically when customers have medium to large intranets, their top-level sites are managed quite thoroughly. You're not just letting anybody go onto pages and add web parts and do all of those sorts of things. So that's the approach we've taken. So this is our workspace navigation, and this actually shows all of the sub-sites that sit below the top-level intranet. And you can see all those sites through this mega menu navigation. You can do You can do a search for any of these sites. So you can do that based on an A to Z search if you know the first letter of your sub-site, or you can do a complete keyword search on Breeze. And that will just return all the different sites with the keyword that you've put in. Just to prove to you actually that this is running on 365, if we just go into our settings. So you can see that you can actually show or hide the SharePoint ribbon and you get the full Office 365 ribbon experience there. Okay, let's move on to the tablet experience now. So Lewis has his favourite tablet, which is a Surface, and I have mine, which isn't a Surface. Let's see if we can get this connected. Okay, so here's the tablet experience for Breeze. You can see it's been completely redesigned for tablet, even though the content you're seeing is completely the same. So we have a nice little fly-out menu. So what we're doing here is using the adaptive design techniques that channel management allows us to use on Office 365. Just to display the content in a slightly different way, in a way that's much nicer from a tablet perspective. So let's just have a look at how that mega menu works. Come on, Wi-Fi. Be nice to me. So that was actually the mega menu that you saw on the desktop experience. So we effectively have the same content here. We're just displaying it in a much more optimized way for tablet. And again, I can do all my searching and find my underlying sites that I need to. We've also enhanced the search features. So I just need to start typing, and it actually provides results back straight in the search bar, so now having to click off and go to a search page. So have a quick look at some of the other bits and pieces using the tablet. So this is just a news article page. We also have the Yammer activity feed embedded in Breeze on a tablet, and this is a completely live feed. In fact, Lewis just tried to take a photo of all of you, but managed take a photo that my kids would have taken. Yeah. So yeah, this is the Yammy news feed on the tablet device. Okay, so that's the tablet experience. Let's take that. Let's have a look at the mobile experience now. Just to warn you, this is my phone. So if my kids ring me or my mum calls me, I might have to pick up. Okay, so again, this is all the content that you saw on both the desktop and the tablet experience. But again, it's just been refactored for mobile device. So you have all of the news articles here. I can just rotate this around, and it completely changes the layout for me. Let's turn it back around now. Something's beeping again. We've got another nice little fly-out menu on the mobile. So again, it's showing me some of my my social stats from Yammer. And for me personally, this is actually live data. So this is using the BrightStarr Office 365 Active Directory. These are some of the people that work for us, and one of the really cool things that I've been able to do while I've been at the show, if I can spell, which I can't, is just access people's profiles. So we've got our own concept of a profile page in Breeze, so I can see everybody's information there and just even call them. So let's just see if that works and Kit gets called. Sorry, you'll have to look at the Apple TV screen. Is it calling you, Kit?
Not yet.
Okay, well, it is calling. Anyway, so yeah, I can just literally find people in our directory, call them and say, where are you? Why are you late? Why aren't you on the booth? So it's been really handy for me.
One glitch.
Yeah. So this is Breeze, and as I said at the beginning, it's very much in customer evaluation at the moment, but we would love to get your feedback. If you want to talk to us more about it, you can come and see us on our booth, or talk to us after the session here. But just really hope you like what you've seen. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Will. So we're going to bring the panelists up. Thanks very much, Will. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to pull the deck back up. I'm going to introduce some folks that are going to be on the panel. We have a bit of a seating problem because the seats are all connected, so I'm going to ask the panel to actually sit along the stage. And this is your opportunity to ask questions, and we're going to have people kind of roaming throughout the audience, so you guys can get up and ask questions. I think John's going to tackle that, John Parker. And JM, are you going to help as well? Okay.
So what we're actually going to do is we have one wireless microphone that we're going to give to the panelists so that they can answer questions. And there's actually a microphone here on the walkway. So if you just want to line up, perhaps we're British, so we like queuing. If you want to queue for the microphone and ask your questions. Thank you.
And before I get started, I want to, we have two partners here. We obviously have Microsoft and Yammer as well. We have two partners here that we've leveraged quite a bit in these new intranets, and one of them is Metalogics and the other is WebTrends. And the App Associates site, believe it or not, we actually use Metalogics to pull a lot of the content, the Cold Fusion content, over using Content Matrix. And WebTrends is currently being deployed as part of App Associates to drive the analytics. One of the things that we found with each of these sites we build is you need to think about the engagement, the user engagement from the beginning. And WebTrends is a great way. It's not just getting to launch, but actually continuing to evolve your intranet as you pick up analysis and analytics from the way people are using the site. So we've got both WebTrends and Metalogics here to answer questions around how do you support the SharePoint or the Office 365 environment, whether that's migrating content over from legacy systems or actually managing it using Control Point, or with WebTrends actually integrating the WebTrends tools to help you with the analytics to drive the continued evolution of your intranet. So just real quick, obviously, Will's going to be on the panel. I have Ursula as well from Yammer, the Yammer team, and she's a senior customer success manager. I have Steve Kravala, who's the director of digital strategy and architecture at Microsoft. He's out of the Heartland. And then I have Justin Keene, who's with Barclays. He's the senior architect. I have Jeff Seacrest, who's the VP of product from WebTrends. And then, not the least of which, Tamir Orbach is the director of product management at Metalogix. So I'm going to ask you guys to just come up here if you don't mind sitting on the stage. And then we'll open it up for you guys to ask some questions. People have questions, please, Steve, John, and JM. You have the mic there? Okay. So if we don't have someone getting up right away, I'll ask a few questions. So maybe I'll start with Jeff. Is that my mic?
I don't know.
I'll start with Jeff.
I'll move away.
Yeah, it's probably me. So, Jeff, I guess the question to you is, as part of the WebTrends solution that's geared toward, it's a SaaS-based model, and it attaches to things like App Associates, what are the things that drive adoption in your mind in terms of what WebTrends provides as a solution to customers that are looking to do this in the cloud or even on-prem? Because your solution also works with on-prem SharePoint as well, right?
Yes, WebTrends works for SharePoint, Office 365, as well as on-premises. But when you see sites like those built on Breeze, and you really understand that more and more today, the experience that your employees are having, they're expecting similar quality experiences to those that they have when they're navigating other websites or using other mobile apps or other mobile websites. And so really looking at engagement, how people are navigating, how they're finding the content they're looking for, that idea of the two-click rule, being able to understand, how people are adopting. I love the idea of the photo booth and getting people into the product in terms of getting their profile set up, because driving adoption requires people to kind of pick it up over time. Most users go through a process of getting their profile set up and go through several stages of maturation of their use of your intranet before they become active collaborating participants. And so being able to understand who's using, who's engaging, who your power users are, which departments are adopting more than others, and using that kind of information to both improve the user experience as well as to engage customers with more compelling content and more content that's interesting to them will help you to drive greater success.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Tamir, why don't I go next to you? And looking at, and Tamir, you're responsible for Content Matrix. One of the products you're responsible for is, I don't know how many people know Content Matrix, but it's the solution we use to move the content from Cold Fusion over to Apps News Site, which is the Office 365 platform. I guess the question that I have for you, Tamir, is, looking at the customers you currently service now, where do you see the biggest legacy, systems that need to go from one place to the other, and in particular around cloud? Obviously, you guys do a lot with moving things to the cloud.
Sure. The biggest legacy we see is actually SharePoint 2007 to the cloud. It's probably not surprising. And the second biggest is SharePoint 2010.
Okay.
And then following that, it's file shares, and then typically blog and wiki types of sites, WordPress, Confluence, and RSS feeds, any kind of RSS feed type of sites. We're seeing a lot of that, a lot less than we expected on Exchange Public Folders. I guess that it's changing, so people aren't migrating that. But that's where the biggest need is, and the most requests we get for migrating to Office 365. There are also a lot of net new customers who have not been on SharePoint, and that's where the file share part of it and other websites come in. And people like App Associates, right? They weren't on SharePoint at all.
No.
And great customers to move to SharePoint Online, and of course, especially with the kind of experience you guys.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Great, thank you. And I'll actually, the next question I'll ask is going to be to Steve and to Ursula. And the question is really around, what is the importance of use cases in developing a new intranet? How important is it actually to look at user journeys, personas, use cases to drive the kind of adoption and the kind of solution that you're looking for in an intranet? And that can include both Yammer, and it can also include, obviously, the pieces that are inside of SharePoint Online. So I don't know, Steve, you want to go first?
I was going to do ladies first, but she told me to go first. So I think the short answer is use cases are critical, absolutely critical. I think historically, intranets have been content-centric and feature-centric. And why? Because they've been created by IT. And I know because I've done a lot of creation myself. And when we're in IT, we get enamored with features and content. Unfortunately, across all intranets, most organizations that I work with, which are hundreds and thousands, the intranet is failing. And it's failing because the intranet is content-centric and feature-centric, and it's not user-centric. It needs to be user-focused. So the parts that I really loved about what BrightStarr showed was user experience is critical, and users are moving to mobile devices because they want to connect from everywhere. So a story, and I don't know how many people are familiar with the Nationwide story. I know they gave a presentation at 9 o'clock this morning. If you haven't seen that, you definitely need to see it because it is a user experience-based transformation of their intranet, right? Building the world's best intranet. And I can't say enough about that. And the critical piece is customers ask me all the time, how do I start? Yep, you've convinced me, right? I'm excited. How do I start? And use cases are the way to get started, right? Because you start solving a business relevant problem, and therefore you're going to attract people that are interested in solving that problem.
To add to that, I think what's very important to consider also is the why. The why are you building an intranet? The why are you creating a use case? And I think it goes to the step that ideally can happen before, and that is, what is the strategy from a collaboration or from a connection perspective? And I love to kind of give a little plug into a session that's happening tomorrow at BrightStarr and Yum Brands. And I won't steal your thunder, Tim, but what I appreciate about their initiative is that they have a global know-how project, an objective to connect all their employees across the globe, sharing insight, getting to know each other, creating a big company a little bit smaller. So so that's a vision. And so with that, IT can totally take that and go to each area of the business and say, how do you collaborate, or how do you need to work with the global company? How do you need to get your team a little bit smaller? And there is where the use cases come in. And I think when you have the user in mind, you keep things simpler because you know that you can always add complexity later. And when I saw Breeze, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because it is simple, because it is addressing this, and it allows for action to happen. The other idea is when we talked about adoption, making things low friction. I think that's also very important when you're designing an intranet, is low friction, low adoption, making things easier, and thinking beyond what you have internally, and thinking what other assets or information is outside that your employees already engage with. Most employees already engage with social medias like LinkedIn. I mean, raise your hands who have your LinkedIn status probably more updated than your SharePoint status, right? So BrightStarr very cleverly, and with Yum, are leveraging that. It's like, well, just update in one place and bring that information into your intranet. Because more and more what we do outside in our social and personal lives is blending in with what we do in our work lives.
Thanks. All right. Yes. Go, Marcy.
Good information. I have a question. If you had one single adoption tactic to implement, and not to get people to sign up for Yammer, but to actually use it to do their work, what would it be? Because I've heard of, the photo booth is a way to get people in, and some people have, icons or videos. What would you do if you could do one thing? What could give you the biggest bang for the buck?
There is no silver bullets. But to answer your question, One thing, depending on who you're talking to, ask them what they do for their work to get their work done. So ideally, get them started with, are they coordinating a project? Are they right now trying to make a decision on something? Or are they maybe working on planning an event? Find something that they're doing today where they need to talk to a few people and they're doing it via email or they're building content, and say, try that using this tool and get them started. That's what I do with my customers. I bring them all into our Yammer's customer network. I'm like, you're going to start right now, and I'm going to work with you through this journey. But we have a reason to work because we're working on this project together. So find that one project, that one reason for them to start working with others and bring all their team into that. That would be my one piece of advice.
Any other questions? We'll bring the mic to you now.
I wanted to follow up with that with a real example. I think there is some magic sauce, and she's an example to the beautiful lady to my right. I would first and foremost for me, I look for champions, right? Because how many people have ever been inspired with anything, right? You know how that feels, right? Now, how many people have inspired someone else? Okay, it's ideally all of us, but it's a smaller list because it's tough. So the beauty of a champion is the champion can get people that don't want to participate to participate. And we're, at least for myself and what I see for others, is inspiration and motivation is catching, right? So I think that is the number one, even more important than the use case, because I've seen champions inspire terrible use cases, right? So I would say that's the secret sauce. And in my personal use of social tools, I'm a hardcore email person, right? And for the good or for the bad, I started working with this young lady over here, and she's forced me to see a different side of conversation and collaboration, right? So she's a perfect example of how a champion can inspire others to do something they really don't buy into for the most part. Right.
Yeah, can I address that real quick? Part of that is educating your folks on what the differences are and how Yammer can be used effectively. And so part of that is change management and training, right? And as part of what we do, BrightStarr does, is we provide that kind of leadership, that strategy around driving that education, that training, and the change management so they understand the differences between the two. And that, I mean, how many people want to get rid of some of their email? I mean, I get 500 emails a day. I'd rather see some of that in Yammer, and then people can comment on that. Because I'm the only one getting it, and you're responding back and forth and back and forth. It's better to see it in a Yammer group that's specific to 10 or 15 people, right? I want to make sure Justin gets an opportunity to talk.
Guys, I'd just like to follow on from both colleagues to the left and the right of me. Barclays had a real-world adoption challenge. We had a social platform that was launched. Well over 9 months, we had 2,000 users adopted. What really gave us that silver bullet was we found a compelling application and a way to give the organisation one voice. It was simply via our ideation platform. We launched that and integrated that closely with our social platform, and we saw the adoption rates go up to 17,000 users within a 3 to 4 month period. So if you can look for those areas where the organisation is disconnected, bring the connection into those areas and give them one voice and drive that one voice strategy, you'll find look for compelling emotive experiences, things like timesheet booking, pay slips, anything that you can drive a real need and a way of making my life easier as a colleague or as a user. You'll find the adoption rates, because they're real world experiences. As the guy pointed out with the email, why should I move? If it's actually making my life easier and I'm performing the task, collecting my pay slip, engaging with other colleagues, you'll find that the adoption rates will climb quite rapidly.
Thanks, Justin. That's great. John, I think you've got a question over there.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this presentation. It's been great, the most engaging that I've been to since I've been here, right? But my questions are really around best practices and lessons learned. When deploying intranets, right, you touched on it, traffic is key. So how were you able to get users on the apt associates intranet, delivery? How did you get your folks to start using that intranet more, right? Did you see a traffic uptick? And from a best practices perspective, do you have users, do you force the users to go to the intranet, like to do things that they have to do? Or do you use it as a tool, like to better empower those users to do different things that they can do otherwise?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, how do we drive adoption? How do we get people to start to use it? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of that was the AGI guides. The other part was the booth. And then there was a number of other communication plans we did, before the launch to ensure people knew this was coming. Now, you got to remember that AppNet was not being used at all. So anything we provided to them was a big uptick, right? So, but a lot of that is, there's a book actually that Web Trends we wrote with Jeff here. There's a chapter in the back of the book on a client that we worked with up in Boston where we used Web Trends to drive a lot of the analytics. They had a previous 2010 environment, and they weren't getting the adoption that they were looking for. So I look at success metrics and adoption in a couple of different areas. One, communication plan, adoption plan, using the analytics to drive that component as well, because it's an ongoing process. And so that book is actually available, I think, at your booth, right? And it actually talks about adoption across the board, but it's really starting from the beginning. If you look at the way technology has evolved, people would do test scripts at the end. Now they do those use cases and test scripts. It's the same thing with driving adoption. You have to start at the beginning of the project. And it really includes that adoption plan, that communication plan, that change management, driving analytics, because at the very beginning, you want to start with a corporate team. If you don't have a corporate sponsor that's driving that messaging down, saying this is going to make us different, and bottom up, then you're going to fail. And part of that is making sure you build that kind of strategy into the overall project, right? And you can be creative by using a photo booth, or we've done guided tours. So as an example, using gamification. So someone comes into the intranet, and they can't even start using the intranet unless they go through a guided tour that shows them the key features, and then they get a get ready badge, right? So that's the kind of stuff we're doing with customers to ensure that they're going to adopt this and they're ready for it, right? So, and then with companies like there's an oil and gas company down in Texas that we work with, and we actually use reputation management inside SharePoint, where they get points for doing certain things, and then they get a badge, like a spirit badge, right? So all those things are the reasons why adoption kind of happens, right? But it has to start at the top.
Absolutely, and with Apt, it was an evolution of the previous site, right?
Yeah, and if you go out to the Apt Associates right up in Nielsen Norman, you'll notice that their CIO, their chief marketing officer, their person in charge of knowledge management, all bought in, and we're driving that messaging down across the organization. So.
Right. And did you phase that rollout, or was it just a one big overhaul? Since it was
I didn't mention this. So one of the things, you saw the number of years it's gone from like 4 years down to 2.2 down to 1.4. Ours was 7 months. So it was significantly less than the rest of them that won, because we were on Office 365 and we were very smart in the beginning in terms of the strategy to drive that kind of adoption, right? But it was one phase, but we used an agile development process using sprints, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. You just mentioned these gamification strategies, right, that you used, for example, for this intranet. Was it like part of the intranet that you built? Because it's like, I think it's not a native functionality to, say, SharePoint, for example.
It's not, no. So reputation management is. So you can go in, I don't know if you're familiar with reputation management inside SharePoint.
No.
Okay, so what it does is it allows you to assign points to commenting, to writing a blog. And each person that comes in and does that, then they get a certain number of points. And then when they achieve a certain point level, then they get a badge.
Okay, it's 2013, right?
What's that?
Is it 2013?
It is, correct, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Any other questions?
I just want to add to the whether you force users or it's self-motivation. And I think if you go back to at the beginning of the presentation, when he talked about what issue he was addressing, which is the dispersed nature of the location of those people that didn't get the information, also accessibility. And so when you do a day in the life or when you venture into the field to understand how people are getting their work done and what are some of the gaps, and you build a solution that addresses that, you don't need to force anyone to use it, because you're immediately giving them something that they've been needing, or a voice. So the adoption will be intrinsic, and that's the best type of adoption that you get. All those other strategies, gamification and training and communication, that just validates. But if you do gamification, training, and communication and a solution that doesn't address the problem, that's going to be giving you a really short-term benefit.
We have a question over here as well.
Hi, Will and Kip. I really loved your presentation. It was amazing. One question that I had was specifically to Will on the need for Breeze, right? Because the way I kind of understand is because intranets are going to be completely customizable. So do you see a market for a place where you want to kind of roll out ready-made intranets like this? And do you see user adoption going to kind of pick up on this?
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat some of that question? I wasn't totally following it.
No, so my point was, why do you need a Breeze, right? Because essentially, intranets are something which is completely customizable, right? So I'm not sure how customizable Breeze is going to be, but if it's going to be like an out-of-the-box intranet solution, why is there a need of this sort? I mean, I'm sure you guys have done your research.
Yeah,
right?
so I think that ultimately what Breeze essentially does is provides that user experience layer on top of Microsoft product. So on top of SharePoint Online, on top of Yammer, pulls it all together and does it across multiple devices. And that, in terms of adoption, for me, it's another key thing. If I can have my internet on my phone, which is the device I use 95% of the time, then I'm going to start using it. There are already things on there that I couldn't live without, almost. So for me, it's really about providing that user experience layer, and providing apps as well, and providing the support for customers that don't necessarily know, how to evolve their internet forward and how to get the most return out of investment on their internet.
Yeah, I would also say that one of the reasons why we built Breeze is because if you look at some of the sites we've done, like, there's a big oil gas company I won't mention. There's a big, oil gas company. Actually, Tim's here from Yum. These projects, they're very customized, but when a company like Apt or even smaller companies than that, they don't have a big CapEx expense to go off and actually build a very large intranet. And so we took the 7 years of our learning and bundled that together in a subscription solution that was an OpEx expense and not a CapEx expense. And so that is what drove us. If you're familiar with the way that Microsoft is set up, they have EPG and CAM and they have CTM, right? So EPG is the very largest, that's a Yum Brands or others, right? And then CAM is that space somewhere in the middle. It's 5,000 to a little bit farther above. And then so what we did is we addressed the down market opportunity and took the learnings from the 7 years of 300 plus SharePoint projects we've done and bundled that together in a very cost-effective and time-to-market solution that allowed people to get the kind of experience that like a large company might otherwise get.
Hey, Kip, let me say one more thing about that. What I've learned over time is people want solutions. Like the business looks for solutions. Right? They're not looking for features. They're not looking for products. They're not looking for technology. They're looking for a solution to a problem. Right? And SharePoint and Office 365 provide a set of features that can be bundled together into a solution. And really, to me, the beauty of Breeze is it's a packaged solution that focuses on user experience, the two key things that are essential to driving adoption.
Yeah, my question follows on for previous gentleman. I think your portal is fantastic. It looks very good. I suppose in commoditizing the portal, do you foresee a world going forward where it's almost like a WordPress template that's being delivered almost, and building that value layer on top of Office 365? Because I suppose to quote a film, in a world where everybody's special, nobody's special. So if everybody has a fantastic portal, where do you see this going 2-3 years down the line?
Yeah, I guess you've always got that situation where things might get really highly commoditized, which is, I guess, where WordPress is now. But I think that it's not just about providing templates. For us, this service is about showing people best practice, how things should be done on an intranet, providing them with a support service as well, so that even end users can call us up and get help with SharePoint, and actually providing a roadmap, of things that we believe, the future for intranet. So different features, different business solutions. So we see it very much as an evolving service, I guess, and we're obviously just at the start of that journey. And I've bought hundreds of WordPress templates, so I understand that space, but I usually end up completely frustrated because they can't do the one thing that I really want them to do.
Yeah, I would also say that if you look at, and by the way, this is kind of, we're working very closely with the Yammer team and the Office 365 team. And so that when that tenant changes with new features, we have to kind of align to that. But the Breeze opportunity is not one where we build it and it starts and you just pay us. We're going to continue to evolve just as Office 365 is going to continue to offer like cross-site publishing and content query web part and things like that. We're going to continue we have features on our roadmap that are going to come as part of the next version, like LinkedIn integration or FAQ bank. And what's that? Yep. Yep. So, and that's what you get when you buy Breeze, right? Yeah.
And actually, to your point, your observation is very accurate, right? It's simplifying what used to be more complex and more. It's like building houses, right? But I think what will differentiate it is how people are using it. The simpler you make it, the more people will put content that is of value. And like they said, I think how it will evolve is based more now on how people are using it and the content that they create, both content at rest and the content in motion, which is the conversations. And so it's going to be interesting. If you look at the most successful sites, they're extremely simple in design. But if you look at what they generate, it's extremely complex in the networks that they connect with, in the complexity of all the people and what they're building as a result of it being so simple. Sometimes I've seen SharePoint sites that are so overwhelmingly like feature rich that nothing happens. So I think their direction is the right one because it allows for people to evolve it and connect with other things and be more creative.
That's a great point that Ursula just brought up. I mean, one of the things with the early adopters that we're currently working with now is that they have an early entree to provide feedback to us, right? And we're going to do that with every customer anyway. There's going to be a feedback area. We're going to do focus groups. We want to listen to our customers as Breeze evolves and align that to Yammer into Office 365 so that it's continuing to drive that kind of bleeding edge or the cutting edge of what the solution can become. Because it will change 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, and we need to be listening to you as a customer about what that needs to be. So.
Yeah, so my question is, you guys have made some great points along the way about user adoption. And I like the whole concept of your oil and gas company. I think that is a way to get user adoption up. But the whole concept of the photo booth getting in, that's more gathering the information so that there is information on the site. But we're going through a migration process, and I didn't hear anything about training, and I think training plays a big portion. So I wanted to ask you guys, how big of a portion is training in your deployment of new solutions, new SharePoint migrations? How big is that? Because I see that as, for us, for our organization, as a big percentage of how we get people to feel comfortable about using a new technology.
So to answer your question, there's a number of ways we can do that. We do provide training documents to content publishers and editors and even admins. And we do train the trainer. We do that type of training as part of our normal process. But some of the innovative things that we do, I mean, there's a medical device company up in Boston where we actually build the videos inside of the web part where you hit a little question mark and it pops the video up and actually tells you how to use that particular web part. So it's more than just the driving of adoption. You can do a launch video, you can do the booth, you can do the kind of adoption stuff with gamification, you can provide the trainer and all the other training as well. It's a combination of all those pieces that are really going to give you in App's case, we did do that type of training. We did train the trainer. We did train the editors and the publishers. And then on top of that, we did photo booth, we did the communication plan. So it's a combination of all those things to get the kind of results that App got. So.
Just wanted to jump back to the Breeze platform. You showed it, the demo here, and it's very, it's tiles, it's kind of that standard look. How adaptable is that design, as somebody's bringing it, they want to kind of they have their look and feel and their design aesthetic?
Yeah, so it's, I guess the best way to explain that is that you need to keep within our scaffolding in terms of the kind of page structure, but all the colours, everything on the page is very easy customizable.
I don't know whether we can show it, but like AM Resorts. No, so Will's right. So like we take your branding guidelines and we'll apply that to the master page. So that the page will look like your site. It's not like you're going to be Breeze up top. I mean, it's going to have your logo, your branding guidelines. The colors will change and everything else. There is some ability to change some of the things, but to Will's point, we want to make sure the page layout to some extent does change. Like the app area, you can change the apps, right? You can move apps in and out. You can do, a CRM, or you can do a timesheet, or you can do an expense report, whatever you'd like to pull in and out, right? But some of the page layout stuff, for the time being, at least in this first release, is going to be somewhat structured. Yeah.
So I think we're almost out of time. Are there any other maybe one more question before anyone else have a question?
Great. Hey, thanks very much. We are at booth 1914 if you want to see a demo at our booth. And then you can go to our website, which is brightstarr.com. If you want to download the app, there's an app case study on our website if people want to download that. Thanks very much.